Ah, the research paper. Just hearing those words can be, well, a little intimidating, right? It feels like this giant, impossible structure you're supposed to build from scratch. But what if you had a blueprint, a clear architectural plan to construct your argument, brick by brick? Well, in the next few minutes, we're going to hand you that exact blueprint.
Let's be real, this quote from Grammarly, it hits home for a lot of us. You know that feeling, right? Staring at a blank page, the deadline is looming, the pressure's on. We've all been there. But here's the secret. That fear doesn't come from the project itself, it comes from just not knowing where to begin.
And that's really the key. This big, scary thing is actually just a bunch of smaller, totally manageable pieces. So today, we're going to break it all down for you. Think of it as turning that oh no feeling into a clear, step-by-step plan. So let's grab our hard hats and get started.
Okay, so first things first. Before an architect even thinks about drawing a line, they need to know what they're building. Is it a library, a skyscraper, a cozy little house? Well, it's the exact same for your paper. Before you write a single word, you got to understand why you're writing it and what it's supposed to do.
So academic writing sounds pretty formal, I know. But think of it less like a stuffy, old language and more like a set of professional tools. It's not about trying to sound smart for the sake of it. It's a tool for being incredibly precise, for communicating complex ideas clearly to a whole community of other experts. It's the shared language they all speak.
And that gets right to the heart of it, the real why behind all this. See, you're not just listing a bunch of facts you found. You are stepping into an ongoing conversation, a huge one that's been happening for years, maybe even centuries. Your paper, that's your ticket into that conversation, where you use evidence to build a solid argument and add your own voice.
All right, we know our why, so it's time to break ground. This next part is all about laying that solid foundation. And trust me on this, putting in the work here, it's going to make the rest of the project so much smoother. Now, I know this might seem super basic, but skipping these first steps is like trying to build a house without checking the zoning laws first. Seriously. First, know the rules, the required length, the formatting, the citation style. Then, make a schedule. A simple calendar can save you from that all-night panic later. And finally, start skimming sources, just to get a feel for the landscape and refine your topic. And as you start gathering your materials, your sources, it's absolutely critical to know what you're working with. You've got two main types, primary and secondary. Think of primary sources as the raw materials, the original studies, the first-hand accounts. Secondary sources are like the expert analyses of those materials, reviews, biographies, and so on. A really strong paper will use both. Okay, our foundation is poured and solid. Now it's time for the really exciting part, drafting the actual blueprint for your paper. This is where we design the entire structure, your thesis statement and a killer outline. This is the plan that's going to guide every single thing you write from here on out. So, the thesis statement. This is kind of the million-dollar question, isn't it? If your paper is a building, the thesis is the main support beam. It's the one big idea holding the whole thing together. It's the central argument you're going to prove. So, how in the world do you find it? You know, there's actually a really simple but super powerful trick for this. Just take your topic and turn it into a question. So if your topic is, say, the impact of remote work on productivity, your question becomes, does remote work actually increase productivity? Your early research is going to point you toward an answer, and boom, that answer is the core of your thesis statement. Now, a good outline, that's your paper in skeleton form. It's the framework. And as you can see here, every single section has a very specific job to do. Your introduction is the grand entryway. It hooks the reader in and presents your thesis. The body paragraphs, those are your load-bearing walls, each one built with a topic sentence, solid evidence, and your own analysis. And the conclusion? Well, that's the roof, bringing everything together and explaining why this whole structure you've built even matters. Blueprint in hand, let's get building. This section is all about the actual construction, the writing itself. How do you put those sentences and paragraphs together to build your argument using that special, formal academic voice we were talking about? So what does that academic voice actually sound like? Well, it boils down to these four things. The tone has to be formal and neutral. Your word choice or diction needs to be super precise. And, this is the big one, every single claim you make has to be backed up by evidence from your research. This isn't about your opinions, it's about building a case on a foundation of facts. And here's a great pro tip for you. Get rid of what we call indeterminate words. In academic writing, words like very, super, or huge don't really mean anything.
They're just filler. Instead of saying a result was very significant, you need to show how it was significant, with specific numbers or facts. It makes your writing 100 times more convincing.
Just think of this slide as your quick and dirty style guide. Stick to the do column and you'll be golden. Use that formal third-person voice. Spelled out your acronyms the first time, keep it concise. And on the flip side, avoid the stuff in the don't column. No slang, no contractions, and try to steer clear of I think or I believe. Let the evidence do the talking.
Okay, but out of all the rules, this one is the most important. The golden rule: citing your sources. Think of citations as the steel rebar inside the concrete of your paper. They give it strength. They show your reader where your facts came from. They give credit to other researchers. And honestly, they prove you've done the work. This is the absolute bedrock of academic integrity. All right, the main structure is up. The walls are framed, the roof is on. Now it's time for the finishing touches. You know, the details that take a project from just done to done well. This is all about inspection, polishing, and adding that final professional sheen. And speaking of professional touches, here is another massive pro tip for you: the abstract. Let me tell you, a good abstract is your secret weapon. Because in reality, it's often the only part of your paper that people will read. It's your paper's 30-second elevator pitch, packed into about 250 powerful words. And writing one is actually way easier than it sounds if you just follow this simple 4-part structure. First, provide a little background. Second, explain your methods. Third, what were your results? Be specific. And finally, what's the conclusion? What's the big take-home message? It's literally a miniature version of your entire paper. Okay, this next tip busts a pretty common myth. A lot of us were taught in school to never, ever use the passive voice. But in academic writing, it can actually be a really strategic tool. See, the active voice puts the focus on the person doing the action. But the passive voice, it shifts the spotlight to the person or thing receiving the action. You use it when the what that happened is way more important than who did it. And at last, we've reached the final quality inspection. And this is more than just a quick spell check, okay? You need to do a full walkthrough with this checklist. First, check the big stuff, the structural integrity. Is your thesis strong? Does it all flow logically? Then you do a second pass for the fine details, the grammar, the punctuation, the citation style. Be your own toughest critic here. And with that final polish, your structure is complete. You've done it. You've taken that scary blank page and built a solid, well-constructed academic argument. Just remember, a research paper isn't just an assignment to check off a list. It's your contribution. It's your voice entering that big, important scholarly conversation. So the only question left is, what conversation are you going to start?